Look, we're cutting right to the chase today. If you're running a business right now, you are standing on the edge of a massive structural cliff. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're breaking down the Inversion Leverage OS because we are rocketing toward the 2026 inference economy.
Yeah, and honestly, when I first started digging into this documentation, I was skeptical. But I'll admit, it makes a ruthless, compelling case that literally everything we know about scaling a team is about to become a giant liability.
Exactly. The whole philosophy boils down to one brutal reality. Stop organizing, start hunting. For a decade, we've been obsessed with organizing linear workflows, right? Building pretty little dashboards, duct taping SaaS tools together, trying to squeeze a tiny bit more efficiency out of human labor. But that era, it's completely dead. Generative and agentic AI just caused an absolute collapse in the marginal cost of cognition. We have machines doing autonomous, professional-level knowledge work now. If you're just trying to organize that, you're actively losing. You have to start hunting for asymmetric leverage.
So here's exactly how we're going to break this down today. 1. The break. 2. The architecture. 3. The inversion audit. 4. Execution. And finally, 5. The 2026 reality check.
And look, when you hear a lineup like that, it sounds like a pitch to rip out your entire tech stack. But it's actually not. It's about completely inverting how you use the tools you already have. Let's get into that first piece.
Section 1. The break.
Okay, here's the fundamental shift you have to internalize. In the old knowledge economy, workflows consumed human cognition. But today, the core unit of production has entirely flipped. Work used to be denominated in human labor hours, which inherently forced you to scale linearly. Now, it's denominated in orchestrated workflows executed by machines that take action. That's the break. Need more revenue? The old default was, well, just hire more humans. But look at companies like Basecamp. They ran a hugely profitable machine serving millions of customers for decades with fewer than 60 people. How? Extreme operational leverage. In this new agentic reality, compute is your variable input, not payroll. When you scale through orchestration instead of hiring, you totally break that linear link between headcount and revenue. You get exponential returns on your effort.
But how do you actually build this stuff without it completely going off the rails? You rely on math. Specifically, you treat it as an inverse problem. Forward planning is starting with a goal and guessing how to get there. Inversion is starting with the effect. You aggressively calculate your failure states, the absolute disasters, the anti-goals you have to avoid at all costs, and you work backward. Stop mindlessly chasing goals. Calculate the failure and orchestrate the avoidance. That is inversion.
Section 2. The architecture. Okay, so the theory is bulletproof. I totally get working backward from failure, but how does a normal team actually use this on a Tuesday?
It comes down to 3 structural pillars. First, the inversion engine. The playbook suggests running this right in Notion. This is your command center where you explicitly list out your anti-goals and leverage killers before anyone even touches a project. Second is the agentic layer. And we are not talking about generic AI chatbots here. You deploy specific named red team agents, like a downside analyst, built on Claude or GPT. Their whole job is to relentlessly attack your plans and enforce those anti-goals. And third, the execution tracker. No vanity metrics, no checking boxes. You are strictly measuring the ROI on your time. You focus exclusively on the 20% of systems that are driving 80% of your scale.
The real magic happens when you separate your work based on how programmable it is. You have fully programmable agentic work, that's the territory of your automated downside analysts and execution bots. Then you have minimally programmable work. This is the realm of pure human judgment navigating irreducible ambiguity. Think of your seasoned deal makers or complex negotiators. The OS deliberately shoves all the programmable friction onto the agents. This forces your human experts to operate only in spaces where their judgment creates massive, nonlinear value.
Section 3. The inversion audit. That intersection point is really where the whole methodology clicked for me. Let's walk through a concrete example of how you'd audit a workflow using this.
Yeah, this is the in-think methodology in action. Before you execute anything, the system demands that you explicitly map out the potential harms. Let's say you're launching a customer service agent. The failure mode? Agentic misalignment. It hallucinates, or worse, gives away the farm. The inversion fix isn't some vague prompt to just be safe. You explicitly force the model to list specific harms, analyze the fallout, and generate hard constraints before it ever goes live. Same applies to your business model. Failure mode? Relying on linear hiring. The inversion fix, you re-architect the workflow so compute becomes the variable input. You anticipate the trap, and then you literally code the avoidance.
Section 4. Execution. Because here is the biggest pushback you're going to get. Timelines. How fast can a stressed-out ops team actually deploy this without grinding the business to a halt?
Look, this framework doesn't ask for a 6-month integration roadmap, it demands 7 days. Here is the 7-day sprint to revenue. Day 1, you ruthlessly define your anti-goals in the engine. Day 3, you audit your workflows, splitting them into minimally programmable versus fully programmable tiers. Day 5, you deploy your agentic red team, those custom bots programmed to relentlessly attack your inefficiencies. And Day 7, your execution tracker is live, and you are measuring pure operational leverage. It's fast, it is breathless, and it forces immediate alignment because you stop debating theory and start deploying compute against friction.
Let me stop you right there, though, because a fast sprint timeline is great, but what's the actual bottom line? Anyone installing this is going to demand hard proof on how this drives actual financial leverage.
Oh, for sure. Let's talk math. 11%. That is the core operating cash flow growth that Marubeni delivered by maintaining ruthless managerial discipline and zeroing in on strategic platform businesses. The Inversion Leverage OS applies that exact same discipline to your internal operations. You stop burning cycles on the 80% of trivial tasks and focus everything on the 20% of systems that actually compound. You drive up your revenue per employee, you drastically reduce problem resolution time. 11% compounded cash flow growth is not a fluke. It is the mathematical certainty of doing the right things exponentially better.
Section 5, the 2026 reality check. Honestly, seeing the math laid out like that is what makes this feel like a complete paradigm shift in how we think about capital versus labor.
Exactly right. Because historically, a company spends, maybe 5 to 8% of its revenue on IT, and AI used to just be a fancy tool fighting for a slice of that tiny IT budget. But in the inference economy, AI is an active participant. It's competing for the labor budget, which is a massive 25 to 40% of revenue. The addressable market just exploded by an order of magnitude. If you're still treating AI like a SaaS subscription eating up 5% of your spend, you are fundamentally mispricing the market, and honestly, you're mispricing your own company's future. Which brings us to the final warning from the documentation. Orchestration is creating a completely new economic layer. The businesses that rebuild themselves around intelligence at the core of their workflows, the ones who grab hold of that orchestration position, they are going to capture the economic surplus of this entire massive transition. If you master proximity to intent and workflow intelligence, you get to be the captain of the agentic era. If you don't, you are just going to be a highly optimized crew member on someone else's ship. If you want an asymmetric advantage instead of just another pretty dashboard, this is it.
The tools are already here. All the source materials we broke down today are live at huntsystems.ai, so you can see the math and the actual methodologies for yourself. The break has happened. The only question left is, are you going to spend the next 5 years organizing the past, or are you ready to start hunting the future? Thanks for joining us on this explainer.